The sun was setting and I could feel the evening breeze begin to blow cold as I watched Rin playing in the field. She ran amongst lilies, laughing and picking one every so often. It's been only 6 months that I've known her. The day I first met her will be one I will never forget. She found me wounded in the forest after yet another fight with my brother Inuyasha. My anger and hatred for him during that time was at a boiling point. He had not only taken Father's sword, but my arm as well. I remember leaning against a tree, so consumed with my thoughts of revenge that I had failed to notice a young child in the bushes. Once her human scent filled my nostrils, I immediately hissed, not wanting anyone, let alone a human, in my sight, especially a child. She never spoke a word, but I could see so much in her sad eyes. Despite her own troubles, Rin smiled, and she tried to help me even though I wanted nothing to do with her. I hissed at her and repeatedly told her to leave my presence, but no matter what I said, she came back to check on me. At the time I didn't realize it, but somewhere deep down her kindness touched me. Once my wounds healed, I wanted nothing more than to get away from the area, and Rin. There had been a moment when I showed concern for her and her wounds, and it frightened me. She had smiled happily, but I regretted even allowing those small conversations to take place. Yet the moment I began to continue on my journey and tried to put the little girl away in my mind, her scent filled my nostrils again. I could smell blood, and I told myself to ignore it. Why did it matter to me? I ignored my own commands, though, and I followed her scent back to the forest. I found her dead from an apparent wolf attack, and the sight of her torn-up body caused a strange feeling in my chest that I can still not explain. I imagined her smiling at me when I showed her just the slightest concern for her wounds, and in the end I found no other option but to save her. Tenseiga urged me to do so, and I obeyed. I revived her and held her when her eyes fluttered open. Once she was awake, I was disgusted with what I had done, and I kept moving back on my intended path. She followed me, and I not once tried to stop her from doing so. I'm not sure if I ever will know why I made that decision, but once I did, there was no going back. It took her weeks to truly speak to me, but slowly that began to change. In her short time traveling with me and Jockin, she bounced back tremendously. She never stops talking and is quite independent. I question myself daily about why I'm doing this still. I truly despise humans, so much so that I denounce my own brother. Yet, I want nothing more in the world than for this child to be safe and happy. I worry when she runs off to find food, or when Naraku is near and I know danger is approaching. It's become obvious her presence is becoming a weakness for me, and I often think about dropping her off to a human village and trying to forget any of that happened. It would be the right thing to do for her and myself, but I know I would constantly be wondering if she was being mistreated like she was in her previous village. She never talks much about it, but I know enough to know she's been hurt. After all that she's been through, I can't put her back in the position to be tormented by lowly humans. Sometimes I convince myself that when Naraku is a thing of the past, I can find the time to find a human village with decent enough people, and even come check on her from time to time. But I know it would still be a difficult thing for me. I hate acknowledging that I even care for a second what the girl does, let alone that letting her go would be hard. I am Lord Sesshomaru, and I do not naturally have these feelings, nor do I want them. While in my thoughts, I noticed in the corner of my eye Rin stopping in her tracks. "Rin, what is it?" She dropped her flowers and began to run towards me with tears falling from her eyes. I simultaneously made my way towards her as well. "Lord Sesshomaru!" she whimpered. Rin wrapped her arms around my leg, holding on as tightly as her little body could. "Rin, what is it?" I calmly inquired. Before she could answer, I finally picked up on the smell of wolves, and it became clear to me what she was fearing. In the distance, I could see the eyes of wolves gazing up at us from the forest. I could not stand her fear. I wanted her to never feel the feeling again. "Rin, they will not harm you while I am near. There is no need to be fearful anymore. You will always be safe now." I believed every word I said to her. No matter where Rin went in life, I would watch her and protect her. Should she grow to have many children, I would see to it that they lived happily and they had full lives. or should she be alone and grow terribly old and frail, I would never let another harm her. As I looked into her big brown eyes, looking to me for comfort, I knew all my goals before her would come second to her protection. I was now and forever her servant in life. Rin looked up and nodded her head, signaling that she believed me, but she still shook from fear. I wanted a confrontation with the wolves, but I knew it would not be in the best interest of Rin, not so soon after she had just been attacked by them. I instructed her and Jockin that we'd be leaving and heading the other direction, and this was the first time that I ever walked away from battle to spare the feelings of another. These changes within me partly disgusted me, yet it was naturally happening, and I had no control. Once we headed in the other direction, night fell upon us, and the wolves were miles away, but Rin stayed quiet for hours still. I was glad when we found a place so she could rest and forget the encounter with the wolves. Jockin set up a fire, and like usual, he quickly fell asleep afterwards. Rin usually slept when Jockin did, always close by his side. She was clingy to Jockin the way a child was to its mother, and although he acted annoyed by her tagging along, I noticed he doted on her as well, in many ways like a mother or a father would. Before Rin came along, a fire was never necessary. Jockin and I would only rest when we absolutely had to, and we never needed extra warmth. Now, though, without me ever asking him, he always makes sure she is warm at night with a fire, and he suggests we rest when neither him nor I truly need it. Jockin even scolds her and points her in the direction of food when she becomes hungry. Tonight, though, instead of crawling to his side right away, she walked over to me. She stood before me with tired eyes, and I felt so unequipped to console her. But I knew dismissing her in this fragile state would hurt her, and I couldn't do that. She was only a child, after all. "Rin, what is it?" I inquired. She half frowned and sat down, not answering me. So I sat down as well, while we both stared blankly into the fire for minutes before I spoke again. "Is the fire not keeping you warm enough?" "It is a bit chilly tonight," I awkwardly mumbled. Rin looked at me, then put her head down. "No, it's fine. Master Jockin does well at keeping me warm at night." "Then is it the wolves that are still troubling you?" "I told you that you need not fear." Rin half smiled. "Yes, well, I was wondering, Lord Sesshomaru, should I die again, could I ask you not to save me this time?" She spoke with such seriousness and no hesitation whatsoever. It angered me that she could ask such a ludicrous thing of me. "The wolves could do it again. Or maybe bandits," she whispered. "Stop it, Rin," I gently commanded. "I will do no such thing. Why would you wish to not be saved?" "Well, when I saw those wolves today, I remembered what I thought of before they killed me. You know, before you brought me back." Her eyes watered, and if it was in my nature, mine might have too. "I thought about how there was absolutely not a single person who would know or care that I died. My mommy and my father are gone, and the villagers would beat me for just trying to catch fish so I could survive. So if no one cares and no one knows, then stopping my death seems pointless. I am just an orphan, after all." I looked at her, and I couldn't believe that a child so young could have these dark thoughts, especially one that was always so cheerful as Rin. "I know it is a burden, Lord Sesshomaru, for me to be tagging along." I wiped a tear from her eye, and in the back of my mind I could hear a voice telling me to stop, telling me that I'm a great dog demon, and should not be wiping the tears of a human. I ignored it, trying to silence those thoughts permanently, because Rin needed me. "You need not fear when I am near. I will protect you, because I would know and I would care." Rin's face lit up, and for the first time in my life, I had promised to protect another, and I had showed outwardly that I cared for their safety. The safety of a human child, no less. Rin's face lit up, and she smiled. "Thank you, Lord Sesshomaru. I will try not to be a pest. Humans have always been so awful to me, but you and Master Jockin have showed me such kindness. I will never forget this promise, okay? You would know and you would care. so I will live." She put her hand out for me to shake, and I awkwardly took her little hand. Ren let go of my hand and walked over to Jockin. She curled up beside him in a ball and was fast asleep within minutes. I went to find a nearby spot to sleep in peace like normal, but that night I could not sleep. Yes, I would always know, and I would always care. "Lord Sesshomaru," I exclaimed. He walked into the cave appearing to be more solemn than normal, and ignoring that I had said his name like usual. "What's wrong? Did Kohaku leave?" He nodded, finally turning his attention to me. "Yes, he's gone." Lord Sesshomaru looked back towards the cave entrance. "Do you wish to stay, Rin, or would you like to go back?" He was always so dryly blunt. I walked over to him, wrapping my arms around his waist. He tensed up, not yet used to letting someone embrace him, but he recovered and put his arms around me in return. "Lord Sesshomaru, you must know I wish to be with you without a doubt. Why do you say such things? I never would have left your side at all had I had my way." He let go of me abruptly, ending our embrace. "Rin, seeing you that way in the forest yesterday reminded me of when I found you dead as a child, mauled by wolves. I promised to protect you and never let anything like that happen again, and I failed you greatly. The last time I felt this worthless was when you first found me in the forest injured, having just lost my arms to my brother." I smiled, bringing my hand to his cheek, while he put his hand over mine in return, but he looked away while doing so. "Do you know something that ran through my head when I thought I might die yesterday, before seeing you again?" I asked. "What was that, Rin?" He frowned. I breathed in his scent, trying as always to get this beautiful creature to let me in. "Please look at me, Lord." He obliged and turned his gaze back to me. In my despair, I wanted to die, because even if I were to live, I thought I'd be nothing but worthless after that animal's hands had touched me. Then my feelings began to change once I thought of you, and a memory from when I was a child. Somewhere deep in my soul, this memory kept me from feeling completely hopeless. You did save me yesterday, because I knew that you would know, and you would always care if I were to disappear. I knew this because you promised me this when I was a child. So it is you who, even from far away, kept me alive, gave me hope to hold on until you could get to me. You were the reason I tried to get back every time he pushed me down." Lord Sesshomaru brought me back into his arms, seeming to know the memory I spoke of right away, and I buried my head into his chest. "Always, Rin."